What you are about to learn has nothing to do with willpower or attempts to ignore your feelings. This is not about pretending that everything is fine when it is not. And it is definitely not about imposing positive thinking or fighting every negative thought that appears in your mind. The real key to ensuring that nothing and no one can hurt you lies much deeper. And it is something that most people miss. They seek solutions in the external world, failing to understand that the only real changes always begin from within. Perhaps you have noticed that there are people who maintain astonishing calmness no matter what happens. Whether they are going through crises, losses, or periods of uncertainty, they remain centered. At the same time, others, even in ordinary situations, are on the verge of losing their composure. The question is, does this happen because of luck, character, or is there a hidden principle that separates those who control their inner world from those who remain its slaves? This is where most people err, believing that reality is objective and that things simply happen. They believe that their feelings are an inevitable consequence of what is happening outside. But this is not true. Everything you experience, absolutely everything, passes through a filter. It passes through the prism of beliefs you have carried with you for a long time, through emotions that you have not learned to manage. It is like wearing glasses of a certain color. No matter what is in front of you, you will always see the world through that filter. And if that filter is distorted by fear, resentment, or guilt, then the world you see will be similarly distorted. But here is the key that no one tells you. It is not about avoiding pain or escaping difficult emotions. It is not about becoming impervious to everything that happens around you, but about transforming the meaning you give to each experience. It's about reprogramming the way you perceive reality. Because the truth is that reality is not imposed, it is interpreted. And when you understand this, when you learn to control this interpretation, you discover that you can choose how to react to any situation. At that moment, you become truly free. Today, I will show you exactly how to do this, not through abstract theories, but through principles used by those who have achieved inner peace that depends on nothing and no one. Learn how to turn fear into clarity, how to make negative emotions work for you instead of against you, and how to achieve a state of unshakable calmness, no matter what happens in your life. What you are about to understand can change everything, but only if you are willing to look inside yourself and question everything you have taken for granted so far. Because ultimately, it is not the events that determine your peace, but how you choose to experience them. Learn how to transform this process. You will realize that nothing and no one can affect you anymore. Every emotion that appears carries a message. Sadness often indicates that you need to let go of something, an attachment that no longer serves you, an expectation that has not been met, a part of you that needs to be freed. Fear reveals limiting beliefs, deeply rooted ideas that you are not good enough, that you do not deserve what you want, that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. Anger, which we so often try to suppress, is actually a reminder that your boundaries have been violated, that something in your environment does not respect your true self. When you begin to see your emotions not as obstacles, but as guides, something inside you changes. When your inner world changes, the outer world begins to reflect that change. Imagine a situation in which you would normally react automatically, maybe an argument with a loved one, a conflict at work, a moment when you feel insecure or attacked. Instead of acting impulsively, pause, breathe, and observe the scene as if you were a spectator, someone who sees everything from the outside without attachment. The main question is, what part of me is reacting now? Is it really the external situation? Because when you understand that what happens outside only has power over you, if there is something inside you that allows it, you begin to regain control over yourself. Carl Jung spoke of the concept of the silent observer, that part of the consciousness that is not subject to emotions or external circumstances. That space inside that remains calm no matter what. When you gain access to this part of your mind, you discover that nothing and no one has the power to influence you unless you give them that power yourself. At that moment, you realize that every time something throws you off balance, it is not because the world is unfair or people want to hurt you, but because there is something inside you that still needs to be worked on. This is the true key to achieving unshakable peace, not in changing the external world, but in transforming how you perceive it. When you achieve this, storms no longer frighten you because you understand that they are temporary. Behind each of them hides an opportunity for growth. If you deeply analyze this thought, you will notice that it is not yours. It is something you heard, something you absorbed at some point in your life, and unknowingly accepted as absolute truth. But here's the key. You don't need to continue holding on to it. Imagine for a moment that, from today, you decide to change the narrative. That instead of telling yourself that you are inadequate, you begin to integrate the thought that you have always been capable. The only thing that held you back was the story you told yourself. What Jung taught us is that the unconscious does not distinguish between reality and dreams. It simply responds to the programming we give it. If you start feeding your mind with beliefs that strengthen you, your external reality will inevitably begin to reflect that. Ultimately, you come to understand that the only person who can determine who you are and how you feel is you. At that moment, the world ceases to have power over you because now, for the first time, you are in control of the situation. Remember, it is not the event that determines your peace, but how you experience it. When you learn to manage this process, you will discover that nothing and no one can affect you as they used to, because now you have what no one can take away from you: the ability to remain at peace with yourself no matter what happens around you.